Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya. May peace be upon us all. You respectfully, Dr. Wahyu Yun Santoso, SIM, LLM, as a lecturer at Department of Environmental Law, Faculty of Law, Universitas Gadjah Mada. Kak Dila Haju as the founder of Tumbuh Hijau Urban. Kak Prasetyo Pramudiono as the director of Alsa LC UGM at the respective boards. And all participants of Alsa LC UGM webinar series. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Alsa LC UGM webinar series 3 with the theme of fast fashion, how simplicity creates calamity. Let me introduce myself. I'm Esther Natalia Dominic Lubis as today's Master of Ceremony that will be guiding you in today's event onwards. Before we start, let me tell you all the guidelines that we have for this webinar. First, participants are expected to rename their respective Zoom Cloud Meetings account with the format institution _ full name. For example, Alsa LC UGM _ Esther Natalia. Second, participants are expected to activate the camera during the event by using the virtual background that has been provided. You can find it in the chat box. Third, participants must activate the auto mute feature when entering the Zoom meeting room. Fourth, participants are only allowed to turn on the microphone when they want to ask question by writing down the format name _ permission _ question. And let me also remind all the participants to please fill the attendance form that the committee has already shared in the chat box. Okay, now to start off the event, let me share with all of you some agendas that will be covered today. The webinar will be consist of several agendas that will begin with singing the national anthem Indonesia Raya and Alsa anthem. Second, opening speech by the director of Alsa LC UGM. Third, the awaited webinar session by all of our great speakers. Fourth, the question and answer session. And lastly, the closing session. Now that I've shared the agendas we have for today, let's just move to our first agendas, which is singing the national anthem, Indonesia Raya, and Alsa anthem.
Minta apa ini deh? Kita kertas.
For the next agenda, we will hear the opening speech by the director of Alsa LCUGM to Kak Prasetyo Pramudiono. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Esther. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To honorable distinguished speakers, Dr. Wahyuyun Santoso, SHM LLM, as a lecturer at Department of Environmental Law, Faculty of Law, Universitas Gadjah Mada. To Honorable Ms. Dila Haju as the founder of Tumbuh Hijau Urban, to Honorable Moderator, to Bagus Yazid and respective local board. Good afternoon to all the participants. Today's Alsa LCGM is conducting one of its program held by English Development, Alsa LCGM Webinar Series 3, and its concrete action from us to implement one of the pillars of Alsa, which is legally skilled. With the topic fast fashion, how simplicity creates calamity, we are trying to enlighten society about the dangers and side effects of fast fashion. This topic is related to the current condition of the fast-moving fashion trend and the behavior of consumers. We will get new knowledge and insight from the speakers from various backgrounds. So I hope at the end of the session, we can get a new perspective and raise our awareness of the side effects of this trend. That's all I have to say. We hope today's event will be beneficial for the participants, and I would like to say thank you to the speakers for the time and the opportunity given to us. To inspire and to aspire, Alsa always be one. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day everyone, and I give it back to the Master of Ceremony. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kadion, for the amazing speech. Now let's move to the main agenda, which is the webinar sessions by the speakers. Our webinar session today will be led by our moderator as the staff of English Development Division that is active in several ALSA activities. For Bagus Yazid, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Kak Esther, as the Master of Ceremony, for the introductions and for explaining the guidelines thoroughly. And I would like to express my gratitude as well for Kak Prasetyo Pramudiono for the opening speech. Good afternoon, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bagus Yazid, and I have been appointed as the moderator of today's webinar. I am a staff member of the English Development Department of Alsa LCUGM 2020-2021. Today's webinar is titled Fast Fashion, How Simplicity Creates Calamity. The discussion of this issue of fast fashion is chosen to help increase awareness for the public and perhaps a focus towards the young generation. What is fast fashion exactly? Fast fashion, perhaps in a nutshell, are clothing brands that imitate high-end luxury brands, and then they would mass produce them for the public. Perhaps you could say that in a sense, they are just knockoff brands that exist around us, and people still fail to realize the implication it actually brings towards our environment. These fast fashion brands have such a large audience, and problem is people won't stop buying them because it seems like people don't have much of an alternative clothing options beside fast fashion industry giants such as Zara, H&M, and other brands. But is that actually true though? In today's webinar, we will be discussing this issue at hand, the process of making these clothes, the footprint of waste and carbon that we are actually leaving behind, and perhaps alternative options of clothing that we could use to be more eco-friendly. Before getting into the main agenda of material presentations from the speakers, I am very sorry to announce that Kak Bening, the representative from Teens Go Green Indonesia, could not attend this webinar due to personal issues she is currently facing. Nevertheless, the event must still go on, and today we are joined by two reputable speakers, and I would like to greet them first before starting. Our speakers of the day Mbak Dila Haju, founder of Tumbuh Hijau Urban, and Dr. Wahyu Yun Santoso, SH MHum LLM, a lecturer of environmental law and Faculty of Law UGM. Good afternoon, Mbak Dila.
Good afternoon.
I hope you are well and in good state, Mbak. Thank you for
am
sparing
well.
your time of the day to attend this webinar.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope that you and the whole ALSA, LC UGM team are also very well.
We really appreciate your presence, Mbak, and responsiveness in participating in today's webinar. The order of speakers and presenting their respective materials will be started as Mbak Dila Haju as the first speaker, and then Mas Yuyun as the second. Before the presentations begin, let me inform how the session will be brought out. First, Mbak Dila and Mas Yuyun will be invited to present their respective materials. After both speakers have finished presenting, then we will move to the Q&A, the question and answer session, then followed by the conclusion. As Mbak Dila is already in attendance, I would like to move to the main agenda, which is the materials presentations from the speakers. As I have stated before, our first speaker of the day is Mbak Dila Haju. Mbak Dila Haju is the founder of Tumbuh Hijau Urban, in which she promotes a lifestyle that is more eco-friendly. Mbak Dila has attained her bachelor's degree from Universitas Indonesia, in which she majored in communications. Mbak Dila Haju achieved inspiring acknowledgements, such as top 10 finalists for Miss Indonesia Earth 2009, an Indonesian representative speaker for building hardware, the Jakarta Experience, at the Green Urbanscape Asia Congress in Singapore. Throughout Mbak Dila's professional career, she has an abundance of teaching experiences being a lecturer and a consultant in various educational institutions. Now that I have concluded a brief introduction of Mbak Dila, I would like to welcome Mbak Dila to start presenting her materials. Hello, Mbak Dila. Have all the materials you have prepared been set, Mbak?
Yes. Am I able to share the screen if that's okay?
All right. Wonderful, Mbak. Now that Mbak Dila is prepared, Mbak Dila is welcome to share the screen of the material presentations. I welcome you, Mbak Dila. The time and place is yours.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. I seem to have some technical difficulties, but I hope that it... Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. My MacBook had just updated last night. It seems I have to leave the meeting and come back. Is that okay?
Oh, it's fine, Mbak Dila.
Okay, just 1 minute. Thank you. So
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's all right. Mbak Dila has to leave the Zoom for a few minutes due to technical issues, so we will be waiting upon her attendance again. And our second speaker, Dr. Wahyu Yun Santoso, SH MHum LLM, is said to be joining at 3:15, and hopefully Mas Yun has already attended in this webinar Zoom as well. Thank you.
Yes, I am back. Hello. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, it is clear, Mbak Dila.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, I'm very, very sorry for that technical difficulty. Hopefully there will be no more technical difficulties while I am presenting. So once again, I would like to reintroduce myself. My name is Dila Haju and I'm from Tumbuh Hijau Urban. I would like to extend much gratitude for the opportunity that has been given by Alsa, LC UGM. I hope that I pronounced that right. I hope that all of the respected members of UGM, all the respective speakers, moderator and MC that are here today are in very good health, and all the participants, of course, all in good health. Thank you for being here and wanting to hear what it is that I have to say about today's topic, which is fast fashion, how simplicity creates calamity. So I'm going to dive right in, but before I go into the main material, I would like to once again explain what it is that Tumbuh Hijau Urban is. In a lot of senses, people have assumed that it is a community and an organization, and it can most of the time be true, but it is actually a personal medium for me and a small team to communicate environmental issues through methods of education, which is what my main backgrounds are, which is education and communications, communicated in a way that is engaging, as you can see in the pictures, and in a way that you do not realize you are actually learning about these environmental behaviors, not because you are forced to, but because you want to, because it is fun, because it becomes a natural thing to do, because more so than often, it is more effective for you to do positive behaviors because you want to, not because you have to, even though actually you're supposed to have to. And it's the same way in sustainable fashion. But so in any kind of environmental mitigation efforts that you would want to do, it would be a good idea to kind of step back and understand the foundation of it, of why it is that we are doing what we are doing. And I always usually present this sustainability paradigm. It is a diagram that you're actually looking from the top. So it's somewhat of a pyramid where the environment block is the biggest, and at the bottom, social block is second on top of the environment, and the last one, the smallest one, is the economy block. And so what this means is that it does not mean that the environment aspect is the most important, but it is the aspect that you should take into consideration first and foremost, because a healthy environment supports a social society and community that is healthy, and a healthy community society supports a sustainable economy, a healthy economy. And that is where we are able to reach sustainability. More so often, the economy block is deemed more important than the environment and society, unfortunately. And you can imagine, because it is the smallest block, when it is under the biggest block, then it does not balance. So it's this kind of paradigm that should be applied to any kind of business or social practice in order to achieve sustainability. Because when the economy collapses, we'll still be fine. But when the environment collapses, as this visual is illustrated, it's not something that we can come back from. This material is in Indonesian, but I will try to explain, as I see most of us are Indonesian as well. You can take a read as well. This is a data beach cleanup, data from beach cleanup back in 2019, when we were still able to do beach cleanups. In one area, one small district of one part of Jakarta, because Jakarta is divided into five sub-cities. This is one small area and from one beach. And in one day, they were able to recover 7.5 tons of waste. I think it was about a day to about 3 days. And here, there's a lot of information to be seen here, but the most important part is this big chunk right here of waste that was recovered. 80% of the non-degradable waste that was recovered was from clothes and nets, clothes. So, and obviously, I think it's become more and more of a public secret that clothes are made from polyester, and polyester's basic material is from plastic. So that's, and therefore non-degradable. And so because of this, we would think that, oh, how does that impact human life outside of harming the environment? It is believed today that probably over 80%, it is possible that everyone in the world, most possibly over 80%, we now have microplastics in our bodies. We are now digesting them. We are now breathing them because first and foremost, most of the things that we use are based from plastic, and the lower the quality of plastic, the more possible it is to become smaller and smaller particles and harm, obviously, not just the environment, and humans as well. So yes, it's in our water, it's in our food, it's in our drinks, and it is now in our salt. So that is the reality. It is now coming back to us slowly but surely. Perhaps right now it is not at an amount that significantly harms us, but then if you can try to go into more research, which I encourage all of you to do, you will find more and more alarming data. So, but this is just the surface of what it is that's been found. And obviously some of the plastic is from clothes. So in an ideal world, now the concept is that we should be able to live in a circular economy cycle, which is starting from the sustainable resources to the abstraction, to the production, to the distribution, to the consumption, because life is a life of consumption. And then the proper management of consumption byproducts. Byproducts are the products that you buy with the product that actually you want to buy, meaning you want to buy shampoo, but the byproduct is the bottle. You want to buy a towel, but because it's in a plastic wrapping, then the plastic wrapping is the byproduct. So we don't say that it's waste, but it's a byproduct because you buy it too, and you're supposed to consume it as well. It's just you don't consume it at the fullest. So then it becomes obviously mostly waste. But then if we manage these byproducts well and converse them or change them into renewed resources, they can go back into the cycle. But what happens is that we are still mostly living in a linear economy with improper management of consumptions, with resources that weren't originally sustainable, and therefore we are facing the consequences that we are mostly facing now. So simply put, if you want to try to mitigate these environmental issues, it would be best, it is best that we are first and foremost environmentally conscious, which is the backgrounds of what is happening right now and during this webinar, because we are conscious about these environmental issues, so being environmentally conscious. But then there are so many issues like global warming, like climate change, waste. Now it goes to human rights, who has better quality of life, animal welfare. And so one of the simplest ways to make a change into mitigating, again, environmental issues is first and foremost to be environmentally conscious and then to become a conscious consumer. So that's actually a general idea. One of the easiest ways for me probably to explain this is actually from an Indonesian, actually it's an international campaign, but it's been localized by WWF, Worldwide Foundation, Indonesia, into a campaign called Beli Yang Baik. And it has these 6 practices on how you can buy well, basically. That's the translation of Beli Yang Baik, is to buy well. And so these are all Indonesian terms, but I have translated them into English. So first and foremost, you buy needs. You have to be able to separate between what you need and what you want. Buy long-lasting, buy natural, buy local, buy eco-labeled, and consider the byproducts. And if you follow these 6 practices, hopefully it'll help you be better to be a better consumer and to buy well. So with that said, when you go into sustainable fashion and you notice this symbol, this 3R symbol, if you put that into sustainable fashion terms, you would get something like this. So first and foremost, before you buy something or think about wanting to buy products that are more perhaps environmentally friendly or sustainable, first reduce. If you don't have to buy it, then don't buy it. Just stick with what you need. A lot of times I get questions of people saying, oh, but then most of my products aren't environmentally friendly, then should I go buy? No, just wear what you have as long as you possibly can. And that in itself is already environmentally friendly. But if you do perhaps want to make a change, you could either reuse it differently, or perhaps there are so many swap and trade events now where perhaps you don't have to buy, but perhaps you can exchange. And then in the end, if you do in the end buy, then you can also try to recycle or upcycle, because of now a lot of stores, whether they are local or international branded, they now accept their clothes again. And so it's not you having to do the recycling, but you can actually give it back to the producers who produced your clothes. If we go back to the circular economy and put it in sustainable fashion terms, it would look something like this. So you would go with the raw materials to the production, transportation, and then goes to the stores, and then it goes to the customer's usage. You can either recycle it or waste or redesign it. So I'm sorry, so it starts from the design itself. So that's what it looks like. This is a infographic of sustainable fashion facts. So as it turns out, 50% of our clothes today, this was research back in 2019, 50% of our clothes end up in landfills in less than 3 years. So this is the average person. It is deemed the third most polluting industry in the world. So when we're talking about pollution, although organic cotton shirts are great, but it is good to know that a single cotton t-shirt actually uses 2,700 liters of water, which is a lot of water that could be put to better use to be drank by people, which clean water is more and more difficult to have these days in a lot of places. 1/4 of the world's pesticides are used to manufacture process of cotton textiles, but luckily 99% of the estimated use clothing is actually recyclable, and 60% between 20 to 24-year-olds worldwide would like to see more sustainable clothing in stores. So the public is ready and the material is actually ready as well. It's just now we have to try more, I guess. If you look at it in a diagram, the opposite of fast fashion would be slow fashion movement. So it's all of these aspects. Before I mentioned eco labels as well. We have that not just for food products, but also for fashion products as well. Aside from talking about environmentalism, then you also talk about ethics as well, because it was mentioned about human rights, how that is also connected to environmentalism as well in one way or another. And obviously choosing quality and not quantity, reducing carbon footprint, buying from charity shops as well, buy less and choose quality. Oftentimes we are tempted by cheaper prices when in actuality, we end up spending more buying those cheap clothes over and over again, rather than buying one piece of clothing that lasts very, very long. Kind of the same way you look at when you think about buying mobile phone data packages. It is cheaper to buy a day at a time, but then if you times it by 30, it's very, very expensive. So it would just be much cheaper for you to buy a 1-month package than a day-to-day package. And that's kind of the same thinking when you think about wanting to be more environmental. You end up saving more than you spend. And so since before I had been giving you data and explaining what it is in a certain perspective, what sustainable fashion is, here are some brands that I would like to share. Obviously, there are so many more, but these are some examples. All local, all Indonesian, all of them in one way or another use environmental dyes, environmental friendly textile dyes, use recycled materials. One of my favorite ones is this shoe here on the left bottom. Here, used from farming waste, farming byproducts, if you may. The shirt, the clothes that I was wearing in the poster that they showed in the beginning are from Any Kind, which is from bamboo cotton. Bamboo, unlike other plants and other trees, are they grow 30 times faster than other trees, so much more sustainable. And Melekat Sejiwa, they've been around for a very long time, also using organic cotton. So yes, do check these brands out. And of course, there are the international brands, but of course, I would also like to note that some of the following international brands are still surrounded by much controversy, but it does not make it wrong for us to acknowledge every step of their progress. So at the beginning, I'm sorry if it was the MC or the moderator who did share these brands. They still have much work to do to be more sustainable. But the reason why I want to share this is because they did not think of trying to be more environmental if there was not a market for it. And these markets were mostly moved first and foremost by local products. So because they saw this market and they saw this opportunity, these local brands are setting new standards for the international brands to catch up, and they are trying to catch up. It's just now the consumers have to continually push them to be better, because again, as the MC stated at the very beginning, that it seems that people unfortunately just want to keep buying. And so at the very least, yes, we do have to try to educate consumers, but first and foremost, significant change is by targeting the producers themselves. But so these producers have now started to experiment with environmental materials. One of my favorites, Timberland, before they used organic cotton, but then now more and more brands are looking to waste, to recycle their waste in better technology, obviously. So yes, so those are some of the local international brands that I would like to highlight. Looking to the consumers once again, that a research in 2020 was just last year, where the growth for ethical fashion, sustainable fashion, continues to grow and grow and grow. And the center of that is in Asia Pacific, which is where we are. So we are in the right place to do so. So it is looking like a very bright future for sustainable fashion. Natural resources are being used as alternatives for complex and adversely affecting chemical-based textiles. So to close my presentation, I always like to say, and I think this applies to any kind of, I usually say genre, but I think this can apply to any type of business, any type of aspect, any type of effort that you're trying to do with the environment, is we don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. So if you talk about sustainable fashion, we don't need a handful of people doing sustainable fashion perfectly, but we need millions of people doing it imperfectly. So again, I do get a lot of questions. Oh, but then what if I still want to buy something from a mass-produced brand? Okay, if you've done a lot of thinking to do so, but do make sure that you try to wear it long lasting. So you always go back to the 6 practices of being a good consumer that I did in the beginning, and try to just work your way up slowly, and like you do in everything else. And that concludes my presentation. I usually close before I shared that quote, but then I usually do this end phrase. If we were live, I would do this live, where I would have myself and others to remind themselves as well that when we care for the environment, therefore we also care for ourselves and others. Honestly, this is the end of my presentation. I understand that I still have time. As before, there was supposed to be a speaker, but if you would allow me, I could share a video. Would that be okay, Yazid? Or would we just like to move on?
That would be fine, Badila.
Okay, all right. So let me get that ready. Okay. 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 So to do one more recap, I know I closed the material from before, but then perhaps I will recap once more. So first and foremost, when you're talking about sustainable fashion, is to first and foremost wear what you have. I'm sorry, this material is in Indonesian. I have not yet to translate it, but then first and foremost is to wear what you have as long as possible. And then if perhaps you would like to look for something new or refresh yourselves, you can look to swap or trade, or look to stores who sell used clothes. When you do end up buying, do make sure you buy very consciously. Make sure you have considered all of your options, and it would be something that you would wear for a very long time. Yes, this is what I mentioned before, is to wear it as long as possible. If you do at some point get bored, it is possible for you to try to make it new again. And if you do have to, quote unquote, throw it away, do make sure that either materials or the clothes itself are able to be worn again. And highlighting this is trying to make something new. I wanted to share a video from a personal friend of mine. She doesn't present herself as an environmentalist or somebody who is in sustainable fashion, but she unconsciously does so. And I admire her very much. This is a piece, a video that she has in one of her profiles, Kaira Naida, trying to turn 2 old jeans into 2 new jeans.
Mau buat celana acrylic yang dipakai sama Kylie. Pertama aku dedel suetan warna hitam bagian jahitan di pinggir, dalam dan luarnya. Terus ada bakal. Dan terus lagi gitu aku lakuin hal yang sama ke celana jeans. Emang kalau celana jeans tuh lebih susah dedelnya guys, semangat. Dan akhirnya setelah seharian, ini aku dapet potongan belakang sweatpants dan potongan depan celana jeansnya. Terus sekarang mau disatuin celananya. Pertama aku jahit dulu bagian pinggir luar celananya. Setelah itu lanjut baru bagian pinggir dalamnya. Ini aku lagi nyobain mesin jahit baru, bagus banget mesin jahitnya. Celananya udah jadi juga, seneng banget sama hasilnya. Ini pas dipakainya.
Okay, and that is the end of my material. We do still have time, Yazid, so perhaps if there are any questions or something that you would like to discuss.
Thank you very much, Badila, for the questions. We will be putting it in the question and answer session after Mas Yun has finished his presentation. Once again, thank you so much, Badila, for such a concise and well brought up presentation.
Thank you.
Badila elaborated it was very informative. But one of many points from Badila's presentation I want to bring up again is the amount of waste contaminating Pantai Ancol Timur, ya, Mbak.
Yes.
Because likewise of Pantai Kecamatan Ancol Timur, if I'm not mistaken, Sungai Citarum or Citarum River is also one of the most, if not the most polluted river in the world, isn't it? Not Badila?
It is, perhaps. It is definitely one of the top world most polluted rivers as well. I unfortunately don't have data on me to see what it is that is causing most of the waste, but what I do know for sure is that waste from textiles and clothes are what is ending up in our oceans and apparently has washed off to our shores as well. It's close.
Yeah. Because I chose to bring up the issue of Citarum River as well because there are actually lots of factories of brands such as Zara and H&M located near this river.
Yes.
These factories leave a carbon and waste footprint to this river, and from what I've learned is residents living there are actually getting sick day by day due to the contamination resulted from these fast fashion factories.
Yes.
Once again, thank you so much, Badila, for the insightful presentation. Thank you for elaborating more upon and perhaps give an idea of alternative clothing that can be used by the public.
Thank you very much. I apologize once again for the technical difficulties.
Now that Badila has concluded her. Sorry, but I was having a connection disturbance. What was it?
No, I just wanted to once again apologize for the technical difficulties that I had at the beginning. And if perhaps at some point there were other technical difficulties, and I hope if there was something that was unclear in the presentations, in the material that I gave or data, which I hope there are many questions, I look forward to it in the Q&A session. Thank you once again.
Oh, all right. It's totally fine, Badila. Thank you so much for the concise presentation. It was really well discussed, and with now that Badila has concluded her presentation, I would like to move to the discussion upon the connection of the waste and perspective from the law itself. How are these factories able to pollute the environment with such ease? Are there not laws regulating the throwage of waste? Are there not sanctions on industry throwing their waste without authorization of the government? With this, I would like to move on to our second speaker of the day, which is Dr. Wahyuyun Santoso, SHM, Hum LLM. Selamat sore, Mas Yuyun.
Sore, Mas Yazid. Selamat sore, teman-teman semua.
Apa kabar, Mas? I hope you are well today.
Ya, alhamdulillah sehat. Semoga sehat selalu semua peserta webinar.
I see. Noted, Mas. Thank you. Now that Mas Yun is present, I would like to make a brief introduction first on Mas Yun. Dr. Wahyuyun Santoso is a prodigious lecturer in our Faculty of Law, and his focus is on lecturing environmental law in Universitas Gadjah Mada. Mas Yun attained his bachelor's degree from Faculty of Law, Universitas Gadjah Mada, his master's from there as well, and globalization and law from Faculty of Law, Maastricht University. And ultimately, Mas Yun attained his doctoral degree in environmental law, Graduate School of UGM. Mas Yun has published countless astonishing books and journals. One of many journals Mas Yun has published that I would love to mention today is a journal titled Legal Aspects in Management of Hazardous and Toxic Waste, and how Mas Yun perhaps elaborate on the effects of toxic waste on human health and other living beings, and perhaps the treatment and the legal procedures in throwing toxic waste, and perhaps also that Mas Yun elaborates more upon the environmental law aspect and government regulations regarding the integrated treatment in toxic waste in Indonesia. Mas Yun, are you prepared to start presenting your materials, Mas?
Yes. Also by myself, okay?
Oh, okay. Noted,
Okay.
Mas. Baik. Now that Mas Yun is set to start presenting, you are welcome to start presenting, Mas Yun. The floor is yours, Mas.
Okay, thank you, Yazid. So good afternoon, everyone in the seminar, and mostly Yazid for your nice introduction for me, and also Mbak Dila. I already have your presentation just now, and then it is very informative as well as inspiring presentation, as I think for us. And I'm sorry for a little bit late to join this webinar. So I think, yeah, as Yazid mentioned previously, that I came from the law faculty, but it doesn't mean that I will talk articles by articles. That would be too boring for you, of course. And let's say that I would like to discuss more on the broader aspect of environmental law. Yeah. So I took this clean by design. It is the idea is about in environmental law there are so many development, including how perhaps you once heard about how the greening of the law is it is started in 1972 when whole world joined together at Stockholm, and then at that time they were discussing about the human environment. And it is quite interesting when the theme at the time was about only one earth. So only one earth is one of very interesting tagline at the time, chosen to be a unit to unite 114 states at the time. And it is very interesting that people came together at that time, 1972, when most of the government didn't know exactly what environmental law it is. And then at that time they were agreeing on focusing on that. Yes, indeed, we are living in one earth, and there's only one earth, and that we must protect and we must take care and taken into account about. And so from that on, and then the idea of sustainability, and then how the lifestyle will intriguing aspect of lifestyle is part of the sustainability. So I will start my discussion with this. Perhaps once of you, or perhaps all of you once read this book, or perhaps you're not reading the book, but you are seeing the movie. It is came from Dr. Seuss the Lorax. So if I may to start this, only three minutes of very many few of it, but it is to show you that the idea of the LoRack is very interesting, that they are the needs, everything, everything that sorry, a thing that everyone is expecting and needed. And it came from the idea of how they what is uh, yeah exploiting the surrounding, so to only to fulfill the need. Just spare your 3 minutes to take a look at this new this small view in your right corners. This is the opening. Is very intriguing enough to show how the awareness of environment, as Mbak Dila mentioned previously, is very interesting, is very important to us. Okay. So that's a small introduction on what is sustainability and also lifestyle can be shown in that opening skin, 3 minutes of opening skin from the Rolex. And it is for me, it is very interesting to show to you that to all that uh, when we talk about today topic, the fast fashion, that then how simplicity creates calamity. I think it's a very triggering. I mean, the idea, the term, and the tagline is very interesting enough that something indeed what we thought that it is simple as what we used to in daily life, that could create something that problematic, right? Problematic to us, to the environment, and others. And that's that also that the idea of the how we think that all we have, all we do is to fulfill our need, and then because we need to grow bigger, right? So bigger I got, and so bigger the problem it is. So that is the what is the concept on the ongoing process of what we call now the Anthropocene, if you once heard about it. So we live today in the Anthropocene, the era of human, because the focus, of course, human. So how this earth will survive, how this earth will develop, that's all, of course, all related, all depend on the human itself because it is our era. But sorry, and then when we talk about the textile as our specific topic for today, is that I think for the textile itself, if I take a look of the several information on the textile itself, we are now having at least the main differentiation about the conventional textile and also the technical textile. The conventional, it is what we use in our daily life for clothes, for any household needs and others, right? And then for the technical textile, it is specially designed for specific purposes. And then to some extent, then it is could be unavoidable, the source or then the process stuff. But it is then came when textile industry found the waste itself. Of course, in any aspect, in any scale, textile industry will have impact to the environment, of course, because at least from the process itself, if I'm not mistaken, this is very interesting because my wife came from the textile engineering, right? Her background studies came from textile engineering. So from the process of designing, it's like a stretching the fabric, stretching the source of the textile itself, and then the bleaching process, the dyeing process. Then dyeing, of course, we will talk about how dyeing could came from a chemical paint, or yes, it could came from natural paint, but still that's create the impact also. And then bleaching, of course, bleaching you use of chemical, it could be hazardous materials. The printing itself, then we make about the how to make a design. Yeah, even though in the small industry of garments, it's also including these steps, and this step as the source of the waste itself from the textile industry. And the finishing is could be like putting what is something to make it soft, to make it slick enough, and that also create the impact to the environment. So what kind of impact? Of course, perhaps you already aware of about the river pollution, odor disturbance, and then it's also preventing sunrise if it's covering the river. And then of course it's creating a threat to the life of biodiversity. Okay, so but also in environmental problem, we also know that fashion claims more victims. If we talk about how animal the garment came from the animal fashion, right? I mean, this is some mocking picture from WWF about the cheetahs. It is not cheetah, jaguar. The small one, the kitten one is for the S, and then the bigger one, he has the tagline of XL, extra large. So fashion also could cause a problem, to the environment. Even though, of course, if you take a look of this, I believe you, especially when Yasid mentioning about Citarum. Citarum is a long story. It's already a long story. Well, and it is recurring problems. It's not only happen in between 2017 2017 to 2019 or 2016, when at that time, if you remember, this picture came from activists from Greenpeace they create a massive campaign at the time to show that how the river bands of Citarum in Majalaya, of course, especially Majalaya and Sumedang and Sukabumi and so Bandung is a very polluted because at least there were 2,000 of factories, 2,000 factories, small and big industries related to the garment industry. And of course, when we talk about this picture, this is Citarum, and then this is how people who living in this river basin, they of course they don't have any other places to take a bath. Of course, this is their playground, and this is the second the third picture of blue drainage came from, if I'm not mistaken, it's from Kebun Jeruk, dying pollution from also garment factory in Jakarta, and then this came from Pekalongan, when also not only a conventional product, the modern product, but also batik products also create problems, of course. So why this problem happens? Of course, we have so many textile industries, and then of course growing population means growing needs, and if of course needs could be debated. Could be debated whether which one of the needs that we would like to talk in this aspect. But then there are at least three aspects of the problems when related to the policy. First, of course, lack of supervision. Okay, lack of supervision, because as I mentioned, for example, 2,000 factories, small and big one in this river basin, Sumedang, Sukabumi, Bandung, in Majal in this area, and then how to supervise each one has already been a problem to the government. But and then the supervision also caused, the lack of supervision also caused by unintegrated coordination, and especially about when the business licensing is still partial, and then if the company is not obliged to do AMDAL, to do environmental impact assessment, because of the scale of the industry. For example, this only middle class industry, so there will be lack of supervision because there's no document submitted to the government. And but also the problem is not merely caused by the lack of supervision from the government, but this is the ironic things that happen in Indonesia, that mostly of the problem it is because of the lack of environmental performance by proponents. In 2004, for example, there were 11 textile industries in Karanganyar, Surakarta, Central Java, which was then sentenced between 5 years to 12 years, 12 years of criminal sanction for the owners. And then also all of these 11 companies were then shut down at that time. And then because of the pollution, and what they did at that time, it's not merely because the government didn't do any supervision, but they throw the waste, the chemical waste, water waste, not in Karanganyar area, but they going abroad to Sukoharjo and Boyolali, and then they find they take a look, then they find a place that is quite far from the neighborhood, from the life surrounding community, like from the far from the population, and then they just throw. For example, they found some field, abandoned field, yeah, in between a timber forest in Sukoharjo, and then they just throw it the waste in there. So the problem then arose when forest farmer, and then found out about the trees, their trees that being rotten and then black. Yeah, it is the color is black and then rotten and then smell so bad like that, and then they report that finding to the government, and then there goes the investigation at that time. But this is also, as I mentioned, the lack of environmental performance is the ironic things in Indonesia. Just like what you saw in this bigger picture, the biggest picture in this slide, in this page, is about how in Citarum, as I mentioned before, mostly problem became because of this 60 outfall of waste is not controlled. It's not controlled. It's not it's not calculated and also monitored, being monitored. So the problem came from the proponent itself. So when I say this doesn't mean that the problem of environmental waste from textile it goes, but without any law enforcement. Okay, so so many cases as well as the court decision on it. I mean, there are a lot of cases, but these three aspects, as I mentioned: supervision, coordination, and also the environment performance, getting and making the problem worse. Yeah, making worse the problem. Okay, so there are two things that I want to talk for you to bridging the idea of sustainability and the lifestyle itself in the corridor of environmental law. So as Mbak Dila previously mentioned about the sustainable development, of course, there are three aspects that need to be elaborated when we talk about the environment. So not only environment, but also not only economic, but also environment and the social aspect of it. So the economic, of course, we talk about the how and the profit, but when we talk about the development that is sustained, so it's mean we also need to think about the people. It is about the social, but as well as the planet. It is our environment. So I mean this is the three pillars, right? Three pillars of triple P of sustainable development: profit, people, and planet. But there are two things that I would like to underline in this sustainable development. First, there is no such thing as a purely environmental problem. Okay, so there is no pure environmental problem. It's always in between all of the aspects. I mean, we cannot talk about that fashion problem, textile waste problem is a problem of the fashion of our lifestyle. It's not because it is also a problem when the policy of trade, the policy of export and others, and how the development of the economy, it also implicate the problem as well. And then the second, the idea of environmental development is not to concern only on the environmental protection, but how this so many aspects of development takes environment into account. Just like what Mbak Dila mentioned in her project, Tumbuh Hijau Urban. It's very, very interesting that it doesn't mean that they should focusing on environmental only as their, I mean, to neglect the other aspect, but to take environment into account when we talk about the lifestyle, the how the urban clothing, right? And then the second, aside the sustainable development, is the need of life cycle design. I think it is coherent with the previous speaker about the life cycle design. So life cycle design is meant to make sure that when you use something, you have the cycle of it, the cycle that is create the sustainability. You create the prolonged use of it, right? Long-lasting use of it. So, of course, there's no single methodology for it. The key is how to integrate the environmental and social impact of it, and then use simple tools as well as develop an action plan. I mean, just what the idea of beli yang baik and others. I think that's one of the simple tools that related to the life cycle design, right? Okay, so short to make a short on the law itself, how Indonesian law preview on the environmental protection, especially on the textile, right? Textile or fashion style. So we have three aspects of it: the environmental planning, and then the environmental control, as well as the environmental enforcement. So we have this law number 32, 2009, the environmental protection and management. So I miss it. It's not EMPA, but EPMA. So Environmental Protection and Management Act. So on the planning, there are so many policies, so many instruments and strategies has been developed and implemented. Of course, we talk about 34 province, 514 kabupaten kota, right? That is not a small number to integrate in this implementation. But this is what the idea of the law has already mentioned, already implemented in the law 32, 2009. This is our EMPMA. So we have strategic environmental studies, environmental carrying capacity studies, also the ecoregion management, environmental quality index, as well as what we call the environment protection and management plan, in which every kabupaten kota need to have its ones, right? And then how to implement this, the planning, we have the environmental control. What are those environmental control? It's consists of so many things: spatial planning, DED, detailed engineering design. But for the policy level, then we have also strategic and specific areas planning, also coastal management plannings, and also the AMDAL, environmental impact assessment. I believe you once heard about it, and then environmental approval right now, and then the Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja and the Omnibus Law. Of course, this is still debatable for us. Of course, we can debate it along, but the idea is to implement the risk-based business licensing is very interesting enough if we perform it well. And then we have environmental audits, environmental insurance, and also proper. Well, for the environment enforcement itself, we have actually these three lines of procedures: administrative procedures, criminal procedures, and also civil action procedure. This is for the government to use the administrative, and then criminal is in case if the proponent, if company create some pollution or environmental disturbance, okay? Disturbance and also degradation. While for civil action, it is the mechanism provided for us, for citizen. We have so many mechanisms. There are at least 4 mechanisms in here: class action, and then personal litigation, and then citizen lawsuit, as well as the administrative lawsuit. Again, under the civil action. Yeah, that's of course aside the mediation or arbitration on environmental matters. But to make it short, we have the instrument, the law instrument of it. So yeah, of course, in the law, we know that there are differences between law in theory and then law in practical. That is the problem. So I think to close my presentation is I will go for this, that when we talk about sustainability and lifestyle, of course, lifestyle, I think it will related to the stories, our stories, and then the setting, what kind of mechanism, style, and others that we are set to our life. And then the most important thing about the values that we incorporated in our style itself. So in textile, either cotton, synthetic, or animal-derived fabrics, some extent are similar in process. I mean, cotton, for example, yeah. If then, for example, I said to you that I use cotton, so I became more greener, more what is better, but it get me more better than you who use rayon, who use viscose and others. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, it it's not what it is, because cotton in the process itself as a plant is quite it quite what we call water. They need a lot of water. They need a lot of water. Cotton. So it mean it doesn't mean that if I use cotton, so it means I'm better than you. No, the process are similar, but of course there are difference in the delivery source, as one mentioned by Dila previously about for example bamboo fiber, and then but also bamboo doesn't mean only bamboo, but we also must underline that organic bamboo, organic cottons, organic silk, and others. I mean, it is the process, the delivery source that create the difference, and also mostly in the use itself. So I mean, how we use it. So that I think the most important thing that we should understand. For example, this is the picture that climate change. This is some mocking the climate change. It is real because we can see in the difference of our lifestyle on the underwear, for example, in between 1920 to today, there is short and more short and less fabric used for the underwear, because indeed it is climate change. That's the more. But also when the source is about, for example, this is if I'm not mistaken, it is came from bus. Bus is wood skin fiber. Yeah, wood skin fiber. If I'm not mistaken, that's a bus. So how the idea of to make the source is different. That's the different right now to ensure the eco and sustainable fabric, sustainable cotton. But these four things that I want you to remember. So wear more, waste less. So it's mean, yeah, just like the video that shared previously. So if you want to wear more, but you must understand that you make it waste less. You could reuse. You could you're not only adding the clothes, but you must understand that if you buy new clothes, you ensure that you reduce one clothes to be give to someone else or to be reused for someone else and others. And then to make a quick and cool washes. Of course, this related to the energy also. And then care for our clothes. Care for your clothes. You must remember that you must take care of your code, because if you take care, your clothes will stay longer, right? And then you still use it, even though, for example, 5 years from now, that is still good enough. And also recycle. So, I mean, recycle, that is the idea, very, very interesting idea. It's not only by knitting to jeans or others, but you also can do what I mentioned before. You buy one, but you must also ensure that you give one. You buy one, you give one to others. So that is the concept of recycle. So I think that's all for me. Sorry if it took quite long, but all of our idea or our discussion, I think one and only for our planet. So it is for all of us. So thank you. The time is back to you. Yes, okay.
Thank you very much, Mas Yun. That was very informative and insightful, Mas. The materials that Mas Yun elaborated were very noteworthy and wonderful. Mas Yun elaborated thoroughly the types of textiles and types of process, yeah, Mas, of the clothing, on how it could actually give impacts towards the environment. And one of the discussion that Mas Yun brought up was that we are currently living in the era of human, in which where we don't have any choice but to get bigger. We have no choice but to improve, because in itself that is our nature. Mas Yun also likewise of Mbak Dila's presentation, Mas Yun elaborated the life cycle design as well. And regarding the laws and regulations, Mas Yun discussed the planning, the control, and enforcement, yeah, Mas. Thank you so much, Mas Yun. Thank you for taking your time to present and help share your knowledge for the public, yeah, Mas. Now that Mbak Dila and Mas Yun has finished presenting and elaborating their respective materials, I would like to move to our next agenda, which is the Q&A, the question and answer session. Every participant in this webinar is welcome to start asking questions or perhaps have some misconceptions that can be clarified by either Mbak Dila, Haju, and Mas Yun. You are welcome to write down your questions and inquiries within the Zoom chat box. Write down the questions clearly, state from whom you wish your question to be answered by, Mas Yun or Mbak Dila. I would then choose the questions from the Zoom chat box, and once again, I would like to affirm to everyone that the question and answer session is officially open.
Oh, excuse me, Yazid?
Oh yeah. Sorry, Mbak Dila.
Honestly, if I may, perhaps as a speaker, I actually have a question for Mas Yun, if that's okay.
Oh, that is totally fine.
Perhaps before as a start. I hope that is okay, Mas Yun. Okay. Okay. So I took a course on being an independent environmental management auditor back in 2016-17, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's been a while, so I'm going to try to refresh my memory. But I took it, obviously, was to be able to understand companies better in terms of when they talk about environmental audits. And so one unfortunate aspect that I did find out of everything else that was good, but then there was one aspect that I did find alarming, was that when we do an environmental audit, say perhaps the company only states that they will clean their water waste. And when they say that, that means we cannot audit other aspects. Perhaps say they only promise that they will make sure that they will reduce their liquid waste. Therefore, we cannot audit their other waste, perhaps, or perhaps the environmentalism of, per se, electricity usage. So in doing this, but again, maybe it's different with the government because this is an independent environmental audit. But then, even when companies, they want to be audited by a third independent company, turns out they are able to choose what aspects it is that they want to be audited. So if they don't say that they don't promise a certain environmental, because it should be all, it should be water, it should be waste, it should be electricity and all that. But as it turns out, they can choose. So my question is that how is it when the government audits companies? And you did mention before that actually, it's not that the government doesn't audit. And I saw that there were 3 processes as well. Civil action can also be taken and so forth. So that is my question. Thank you.
Okay. Can I just directly answer? Yes, it or you need to collect
Yes,
several questions?
Mas Yun, you are welcome to answer directly.
Okay, it's very interesting and it actually need to SKS because it's a lot of things to be introduced. But yes, I think what you got the environmental auditor training is very interesting enough. That of course the concept is audit. The audit is very related to the scope of audit. So indeed the basic concept is correct or what you mentioned that what you audit, what an auditor audit from one company, one proponent is related to the scope of audit given by the company, by the client itself. So if, for example, you are an environmental audit and then there's a company hired you and then the company only want you to, okay, I only need to be audit on the waste management. So you only have the right to do the audit on the waste management because it is your scope of audit. Okay, so that's the concept. It's on the basic concept. However, of course, we have this 2 kind of audit under the government regulation. It is in 2013, the regulation or ministerial regulation that we have 2 audits. So mandatory audit and a sanction as a mandatory as a sanction, mandatory audit as a sanction. So actually, mandatory audit should be implemented to all of company who obliged to do AMDAL. So any company obliged to do AMDAL, it means they have the higher risk to the environment, and then they use hazardous material and they produce the hazardous waste. They must perform routine annual audit, environmental audit. Who can audit them? Of course, any auditors who have the competencies of it. But I mean, for example, you as an auditor, so you have the right to audit it. But it's not only on water treatment and others. They must audit all of the aspect which is related to the or which is shown on the report of the AMDAL, because they have the obligation to do a semester report, right? Each semester a report for each semester. For the second is the mandatory audit as a sanction. It's given by the government as if there is a breach of administrative sanction, administrative procedures. For example, they didn't do the report. There are complaints from the people, from the community. So the government must command this audit. So the company who are sanctioned, they cannot refuse, even though they say that already have audit 2 months ago. They cannot refuse because it is based on the company. The problem is the procedure, the bureaucracy of this audit is only came as if the minister has given the instruction. So as long as there's no recommendation or there's no comment from the ministry, so you cannot do this audit as a sanction. So that's the problem. I mean, we have lack of auditors. I mean, to do this kind of audit, the sanction audits, you must be approved and appointed by the government, and this is why, to compare to the companies, the number of companies in Indonesia, of course, this is very far behind the number, and it is quite difficult to use when it always depends on the ministry itself. But that's the idea. So I think to elaborate what I present previously. So in between these three problem, as I mentioned, the lack of supervision, the lack of coordination, and the lack of environmental performance itself, this we cannot say which one is worse, or because each one create the intertwined aspect of it, and then the link between these three aspects is about the problem in enforcement, as I mentioned before. I think that's what I comment about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very insightful. Thank you.
Okay, now that Mbak Dila has finished questioning and Mas Yun has finished answering Mbak Dila's question, I would like to move on to the participants within this webinar, starting from a Mas Aditya M. Sukarjo from Universitas Gajah Mada. You are welcome to unmute yourself and state your question, or perhaps if you want to write down in the Zoom chat box, the choice is yours.
All right, I'll just ask my question through here. I actually have two questions, if that's fine, but they're both interlinked with each other. So the first is mainly for Mbak Dila, and Mas Yuyun too, if you'd like. The question would be, can you share your opinion regarding the future of fashion sustainability? As in, do you believe the fashion industry will ever be 100% sustainable? And my second question is mainly for Mas Yuyun. In your legal opinion, will it ever be possible for countries to create legislations which obligates companies to be 100% sustainable as well? Those would be my two questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ka Aditya, for the questions. Mbak Dila and Mas Yun, you are welcome to start answering.
Perhaps Mbak Dila first. That would be
Okay, thank you, Mas Yun. Yes, okay.
Okay.
I will begin. The first question, my opinion on whether or not the fashion industry will one day be 100% sustainable. Honestly, I feel, in my opinion, that it would have to go back to how we would define sustainability in itself. There were two concepts. I mean, not necessarily two concepts, but there was a concept that I presented, and I noticed that there was a concept that Mas Yuyun presented in terms of sustainability, where there are the three pillars to take into consideration, which is the environmental pillar, the social pillar, and the economy pillar. To me, the phrase 100% sustainable is as utopic as the phrase zero waste. I think it's something that we strive for. We try to, very much so. But honestly, optimistically, I would say that perhaps one day, if the human race is able to balance out its consumption and perhaps not put the economy pillar above everything else, because I feel that right now it still does. I think if we're able to survive and then before that create a fashion where we still think about fashion, then perhaps maybe one day it'll be 100% sustainable. Honestly, I think that it's a heavy mission. I'm not saying that we might. I'm saying that we could, and I'm saying that we should always try to, because I do agree with Mas Yuyun when people talk about being sustainably in a fashion sense, they automatically think to what it is that they have, and they think about, oh, perhaps then I should have more things that are more environmentally friendly. I agree with him that no matter what the material is, even though, yes, the fact of the matter is that a lot of the clothes that end up in the in our oceans that are based from plastic, but then honestly, plastic, as we have proven that in the oceans it is indegradable, which means that it's actually very strong if you take care of it right, if you wear it long enough, and it is cheap, then it could last very, 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 very long. So it always comes back to the use in itself. When we do want to buy something, it's very rare when it's actually we need it. Often, so when you talk about fashion, it's not a primary need. Primary needs are food. Primary needs are electricity. Fashion isn't a primary need. It's a secondary need. When you want to buy clothes, perhaps when you need a suit, I guess that would be necessary. Then do so considering the most environmentally friendly option for me. Or as Mas Yuyun had mentioned before, if you do want to buy something, then probably perhaps switch something out where it is that you previously had could help somebody else and push that cycle. So to concisely answer your question is that whether or not we could reach 100% sustainability, I hope so. We can, but for now, let's just do our best to do so. So whether it is as consumers or as producers. So thank you for your question. Yes, go ahead, Mas Yuyun, the second question.
Okay, very wise answer from Mbak Adila. But I think I should agree to you, Mbak Adila, because yeah, if then to be sure to answer this about 100%, of course I would say that it is very difficult. But as the what mentioned in the movies called Home is not time to be pessimistic. I mean, right now the most important thing is not to be pessimistic about this, because if we go pessimistic, then there will be no effort at all. I mean, to ensure that, for example, buy one but also give one, as I propose, and that's what I do. I mean, if I buy one, I must always, and I always took other one to be given, either for my neighbors, for my in Kulon Progo neighbors. I mean, they need, and they love to have to given this cloth, that because I also took care of it, and they love to have it. So I mean, it's not time to be pessimistic, but of course the idea will be this will concern on who can make the difference, who can spread the difference. I mean, for example, if I once I read about a book entitled Biology from Matti Lindström, if I'm not mistaken, and then also of course you I think you known about the Blink from Malcolm Gladwell. That's there's something that could be is you cannot imagine, and sometimes it's like a undriven unconsciousness that drive us to buy something or to pick something. It's for example, if you have an idol, you have a Hollywood actor, and then you saw him or her use something, and then perhaps you are not conscious that you really want that things, even you don't need that. So this is what driven most of the people to buy something or to not buy something, or to pick one Merck and others brands. Yeah. So the problem is then, of course, this related to what Milton Friedman once said in 1962, when the first time the idea of sustainable development developed, circulated at them, and solved the three pillars, as I mentioned before: the planet, profit, people, and planet. Friedman at that time said in one symposium, said that the nature of business as usual is profit. So see, he was very apathetic, and then also pessimistic about the idea to make the business thing about the people and also the planet, because the nature of business as usual is profit. So you cannot push a business to think about something else other than profit. But then I think 8 years later, a CEO from Hewlett Packard having the idea of the more safer and eco safe toner at that time, propose some interesting idea that, yeah, of course it is our nature as a business to do profit, but at least we can make something better and something good to take care to care about the environment, to care about the people, and that could entering our brand. So it is related to image building. So if our image building is good enough, so that also could elevate our profit. That's the idea. I mean, caring about environment, caring about people will not give you direct profit, but it is indirect profit that you will gain. Just like now, for example, so many companies, they try to ensure that their motto, their product related to the sustainable, right? Sustainable is like a keyword right now. If you, sometimes it is very ironic. I mean, very ironic and silly. As simple like that. If you put sustainable word on it, so you go safe, you go greener. That that is the idea, how to image building of it. And this answer also goes to the second question about the possibility to make legislation that make 100% of sustainable. What I want to, what I'm missing from my presentation before is the continuing place. So that sustainable development, sustainability is not only an ethical problem, right? But it is there is no pure environment problem, right? Because sustainable development is not an ethical things; it is an ethical things. So if you want to go with the idea of sustainable, you cannot go only to think about the technical, how to make 100% sustainable regulation, how to make 100% companies, sustainable companies, but you think first on that it is more on the ethical. If you could turn this ethical, you could at least dream, and you could possibly reach that 100% of dream. I think that's yes it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mbak Dila and Mas Wahyu, for the great response and answer. I hope the answer given out by Mbak Dila and Mas Yun was clear enough and would erase the doubts you are having, Kak Aditya. Now that before moving to the second question, I would like to confirm, do you have a follow-up question, Kak Aditya?
No, I don't have any follow-up questions. I just would like to say that I do agree that we should always strive to be sustainable and optimistic. I just want to thank both of the speakers for your answers. It really did give me a lot of new insight and perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Due to Kak Aditya not having any follow-up questions, I would like to move to the next question, which is from Mbak Anna from Alsa LC UGM. Mbak Anna, you are permitted to start asking your questions.
Okay, hello. Thank you very much for the chance. Good afternoon, Mas Yuyun, Mbak Dila. Thank you very much previously for giving a very insightful explanation and also answers to the previous question. My name is Anna, and I would like to ask Mbak Dila Haju and also Mas Yuyun about this question. It's more likely a social problem. It's about what makes it hard for the young generation to switch their fashion choice and ignore trends. And why is it that in a world when the environment needs more attention and we should be more eco-friendly, people are actually shamed for buying secondhand clothes? I would like to hear Mbak Dila's and also Mas Yuyun's opinions regarding that problem. Thank you very much, Mas Yuyun and Mbak Dila in advance.
Thank you very much, Mbak Anna, for the question. The question is proposed by Mbak Anna to be answered by Mbak Dila and Mas Yuyun. Mbak Dila and Mas Yuyun, you are welcome to start expressing your thoughts regarding this question.
Perhaps since I went first before, maybe Mas Yuyun would like to go first.
Yeah. Okay. And a question, thank you, Anna. But it is very tricky question, I think, because what makes it hard for young generation to make a better choice, for example, like that for the sustainable. I think the yeah, the direct answer will be yeah, the obvious answer will be that you have so many choices right now. That's the problem, is right. I mean, uh, yeah, the bigger the change, the bigger or the faster the sorry the broader your option. Of course, then you have so many choice and so many reason for it. And I mean, yeah, I live my elementary schools. Of course, I still live in 90s, right? In 90s, in 1990s, yeah, I still second grade of elementary school. So I can understand at that time how we got this simplicity, right? I mean, we don't have that MP3 right now. We only have a cassette, and then it's very if you have one cassette, it is very valuable for us. How you use you take care of it. But right now, if you want to listen to some a song, you only need to download it, or you play it in iTunes and others. And then if you hate it, or if you don't like it, and you change it, you have this fast perspective and fast choice. So I think how to make sure it's not hard for you to make a choice. So as long as you have the principles, as long as you have the values on yourself, that will be better. I mean, you uh, you should have values on your own, even though that values is as simple as, for example, okay, I will not, for example, I will not buy uh, uh, junk food, for example. That's very small choice. Or then you have values that, okay, at least a week or a day, one day I need to eat vegetables, one type of vegetables, for example. That's a values very simple, that it is will guide you to make sure that you have as Mbak Dila mentioned before, right? From the picture, that you don't the world doesn't need one person that goes perfectly on changing the environment, right? But it needs millions of people who acts imperfectly of what you can, but that things, and then you have the values under your reason as your risk. So I think that would be better for us. I think that go ahead, Badila.
Thank you, Mas Yuyun. Yes, to answer your question, Anna, thank you again for your question. I do agree with Mas Yuyun in a sense that we do have so many choices. And I think it's also because of the access of communication as well, that we are exposed. There are a lot of positive aspects to the access of communication that we have now, but then one of the challenges that it presents the younger generations is the level of consumption. We now officially minimum, even a person with a standard person has 3 times more clothes than people did back in the 80s and 70s. That's just a fact. So it turns out we have 3 times more clothes. And on top of that, again, on the aspect of access communication, we see these people wearing certain things, using certain things, and we want to be like them. Back then, we would have to go to the store, but now because of easier access, now we can just buy through our gadgets. Is that simple? And now with the again, access to facilities, like perhaps we don't before. It would be so hard for us to look for loans. Now we can look for loans simply just for clothes, perhaps that we don't have ready cash for, and now we have that. So the youth generation that's as consumptive as it is, and in terms of fashion as well. And obviously, because perhaps not everybody is as well versed in perhaps general ethics, or perhaps what I explained before of how to buy good, or in bahasa Indonesia beli yang baik gitu ya. They're not versed as well. They only see what they want and they will try to get it, and obviously at the cheapest price, because they don't feel the environmental impacts or social impacts. All they want is to look nice, to look cool, and to be able to be part of that media for other people to see them. So it's actually from very, very simple drives. Back then, the only way for you to see people would be on TV. Internet was still very, very slow. Like when Mas Yugen mentioned that he was still in elementary in the 90s, I felt that, where the internet was still very, very slow in connection. Most of the media that we would get was from TV and magazines, and obviously it would be very hard for us to do that. But for us to share images of ourselves, it's as easy as buying clothes at our fingertips. So everything is just made so easier. But because of the easy access, then we have to be able to show more restraint. And I think that that's not something that is communicated enough in the younger generations. This might not have anything to do with it, but I had a conversation with a friend of mine who, again, this is an opinion. So he has a company, and he mentioned that he is not disappointed with all of his 20-year-old employees, but he is disappointed in a lot of them, is because that he feels that these employees get bored easily. They jump from job to job 1-2 years, then they jump back then. People were more loyal. So it's part of this generation to constantly change. And although that it's good to be able to take a step back and always want to change in terms of your image as well, which is obviously tied to fashion, one of the easiest ways to represent yourself. But then there's a level of restraint, a level of loyalty that I think is not circulated enough in terms of the younger generation. Perhaps this is something that could be in later sessions, maybe Yazid or Alsa, to communicate, is to be more loyal and such. So, but honestly, as the presentation, the data that I did present is that over 60% agreed that they are ready to see more environmentally and sustainable brands in the future. So even though you say that there are still a lot of people who still buy from these mass brands that are obviously not sustainable or aren't even interested in sustainability, more and more younger people are aware more. So even though people are more consumptive now, but then a positive is that people are more environmentally conscious now. So that's something to think about. So that is my answer. I'm sorry if it was long. I hope that it answers. If you have any follow-up questions, I give it back to the moderator. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mas Yuyun and Mbak Dila Haju, for the elaborated answers. Before moving on to the next question, Mbak Anna, do you have any follow-up questions for either speakers?
I have no follow-up question, and I would like to say thank you so much, because everything's answered perfectly, especially because Mbak Dila and Mas Yuyun explained their answers with real facts and also their real experience, so that it's easier to comprehend. And also the answers that Mas Yuyun and also Mbak Dila gave us have different perspectives, which I thank a lot very much. Thank you. It's very enough.
Thank you very much, Mbak Anna, for the question. Now, I should move on to the final question due to shortage of time. The final question will be asked by Kak Paradia from Alsa LC UGM. Kak Paradia, you are welcome to start asking your question by unmuting.
Okay, thank you, Yazid. So I would like to ask a question to both Mas Yuyun and Mbak Dila. I would like to hear your opinion on the weakness in Indonesia's regulation regarding wastewater, as if the company should follow the regulations correctly, there should be no brightly colored wastewater in public drainage? I think that's the question. Thank you in advance, Mas Yun and Mbak Dila.
Thank you, Kak Paradia, for the answer. Mas Yun and Mbak Dila, you are welcome to start answering.
Thank you, but honestly, I feel like when it comes to regulation and law, it's not my expertise. I humbly ask Mas Yun to answer first, and I will add on my personal opinion, of course, because my background is education and communications. But when it comes to law, I myself am still trying to learn. So, would that be okay, Mas Yun?
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, Mbak Dila.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think what Paradia questioning us, questioning me is about. Correct me if I'm wrong. That how to make the company didn't make the pollution, or right? Is that correct, Paradia?
Yes, Mas Yun, to improve the legal
Yeah,
compliance
to
from the
improve.
company.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. I think first, of course, this is related to the a long history of us on the development of the industry itself. I mean, we do already have a regulation on AMDAL, on environmental impact assessments in 1997, but at that time, yeah, it is still regarded as like what is something that's if you have no things to do, and then you make the AMDA, because at that time, as long as you have the EMB, the license to construct your building, then that's fine. And then the EMB usually came from the mayor or from the region, right? And then it's came easily, even if you don't have AMDA. Then the problem came from supervision. But in short is to make sure that there is no more pollution in the water with related to our discussion today. What can we do? I think one of the most important thing, or the thing, the jargon of law that I love is came from the for some Judge Wendell Holmes, that the law is actually a representation of what life it is. So law should be developed and then represent what kind of life is now developed. So if the law itself cannot grows, cannot develop, and then to take a leap to compete with the development of the society, of the technology, of the lifestyle of the idea. So then we cannot have the full achievement or full implementation of the law itself. For example, right now, Indonesia compared to Kenya, for example, we are left behind on the probation of the single-use plastic, and then plastic straw, right? Kenya and Nigeria and several countries in Africa, they brave enough to have a regulation to stop and ban the use of plastic straw, for example. Like this is very simple things. But then Indonesia, for example, if you remember in 2016, 2016, and then 2016, if I'm mistaken, 2016, when we implemented that paying the plastic, right, the plastic bag, is actually, if I talk in our youth generation bahasa, is kebijakan bokis-bokis. I mean, it's not that the policy is not good. It's not good. No, it's not good. It's not good. And even it is like what is a fake policy when you put the policy how to implement, and then right now when the government then revocated the regulation. Right now the concept is our society thinks I am okay to buy 200 rupiah to 500 rupiah to get one plastic bag, right? So it's mean I pay the company, I pay the retail market, retail supermarket, I pay the mall for the plastic that they consume, that they produce. So that's not creating any progress. If I want to be pessimistic, that's not creating any progress. That's only creating a substitute of the payment of plastic bag, when firstly the company buy by their own the plastic bag, and then right now we as a customer bought them the plastic bag. But it doesn't change. Yeah, it's only small change on the behavior that we carrying the bag, our own shopping bag to the supermarket. But aside that, I think I see no difference. So the point is, to make it short, uh, if then the law is not designed to accommodate how the current lifestyle, how the idea of lifestyle, so there will be no good implementation of the law itself. So I think that will be my answer. Thank you, Yasin. And also thank you, Paradia.
Okay, thank you, Mas Yuyun. Yes, Paradia, I would also kindly ask that you repeat your question once again. So when I heard regulation, I automatically thought, oh, this is something that Mas Yuyun would probably be more capable to answer. But so your answer was, sorry, your question was what again? I'm sorry. Could you please repeat it?
If I may, moderator.
You're permitted to restate the question for Mbak Dila Kaparadia.
Okay, thank you, moderator. So my question was, I would like to hear your opinion on the weakness in Indonesia's current regulation regarding to wastewater, that the company does not follow the regulation. It resulted in colorful wastewater we see on public drainage. So it was, what do you think about the current regulation in Indonesia regarding wastewater?
In terms of wastewater, yes? Is that what
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So what do I think about the regulation itself? Honestly, I feel for me to be able to capably answer that question, I would first have to understand how the regulation is. But I'm glad that Mas Yuyun did mention about the plastic the plastic bag regulations in itself. I myself am actually pretty close with the organization that snowballed that, which is in Bahasa Indonesia is Diet Kantong Plastik. So diet on plastic bags that's how it would be translated. Their main mission is to, if possible, like terms like zero waste, like 100% sustainable, is to eradicate single-use items. So everything should be able to be reusable, or some things that are long-lasting, because single-use is actually a modern thing, which is actually not good for the environment. So when they began with regulations on, okay, we'll try to eradicate single use, let's start by not eradicating plastic bags, but let's try to make them payable. I agree with Ms. Yuyun that actually it was not at all effective. Luckily though, now in 2020, I think that they finally banned plastic bags from modern retail. In 2030, the ministry states that they will officiate regulations that will ban certain types of plastic. They will ban, among them, they will ban styrofoam as well. So styrofoam will be illegal to produce, basically, will be the words. And this is so Diet Kantong Plastik starting from 2010 and up until 2016, where they were payable plastic bags. Now in 2020, more than 26 cities, if I'm not mistaken, and several provinces have banned plastic bags from modern retail. And then the future 2030 is when they will ban mostly single-use materials of plastic derivatives materials. So that's 20 years of consistent progression and knocking on doors and all that. I myself honestly am not familiar with movements regarding water waste. I do know of communities that go into rivers. Like Yazid, the moderator, mentioned before about Citarum as well, and at sea. But then honestly, specifically on textile, I honestly feel that is a missing gap, perhaps, that should be focused on as well. Because in all honesty, to be completely honest, people and the government as well are still highly driven by the economical pillar. That's just the reality. Still very little or even no regard to the environmental social aspects unless it is unless it is obligated to do so. I'm not saying all, but I'm saying in an overall perspective, it just seems that that's the way that it works. So when you talk about waste in rivers, water waste as well, because I consider myself a person that doesn't understand law in depth or Indonesian regulations in terms of waste. I'm still learning on that. And when you say, or when it is proven that there's still a lot of waste in our waters, and I am not familiar with the regulations and laws, maybe they aren't so good. That means, perhaps there is still much work to be focused on water waste, because that makes sense, because people are so focused on plastics that now, because of research now, like the data that I presented in my presentation, that after they actually went in and did a beach cleanup, that you would think that you would find a lot of single waste plastics, whether it would be cutleries or plates and plastic bags, when it is actually textiles and nets. So it's this kind of research, I think, that needs to be demanded more, because when the public demands and the consumers demand, then it moves companies, and then obviously the government, and so forth and so forth. So to concisely answer your question, what do I think about the regulations on water waste? Perhaps after pondering on it more, then maybe there should be more focus and more work to be done. I hope that was a pretty good answer. I apologize if it wasn't good enough, but now you have incited my interest. I feel like I would want to know more about that. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mas Yun and Mbak Dila, for the great response. I hope the answers given out by the speakers was clear enough, ya, Kak Paradia. Do you have any perhaps any follow-up questions, Kak?
No, I don't have any follow-up questions. The insights were very good, and I have more understanding on the topics now. Thank you, Mas Yun and Mbak Dila.
Due to the shortage of time and constraints of the event procedure, I'm sorry to say that the Q&A session will be coming to an end. Thank you, everyone, for expressing your questions and pouring your thoughts in this webinar. Well, I'm very grateful for the speakers, Mbak Dila and Mas Yun, and for every participant which has attended in this webinar discussion. Now, with this, I shall officially close the Q&A session and move to the conclusions. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the webinar series event. Once again, I would like to express my utmost gratitude towards Mbak Dila and Mas Yun for the very informative and insightful presentations, Mas. But I would also like to thank the audience for the active participation on the Q&A sessions. Mbak Dila Haju has elaborated her presentations in a format that is very well made and easy to be grasped upon by not only a law student, but also towards the public of people of different backgrounds. But Dila gave a few examples of alternative clothing that people should be more aware upon, and Mas Yun explained the regulations and his thoughts on the waste management, and also regarding the waste management, and also regarding the textiles and in the making of the fast fashion clothing. We as individuals, as a part of a community, should be conscious about every matter of decisions in our daily life, not to only think of circumstances that would be beneficial or have some effect to us. We as the young generation should be more thoughtful in every simple decision we make for the better future. The future lies in our hands. At the end of the day, just like Mbak Dila has stated, yeah, it is totally fine if if you still choose to wear clothing from the fast fashion industry. Perhaps it is your cup of tea, perhaps it is your way of expressing yourself. But the thing is, like Mbak Dila has said before, if only we just hold on to these clothes for a little longer, but still, even then, like by still keeping our clothes for more than 9 months, the amount of waste and carbon footprint from the clothes could be reduced greatly. Then, if we have no use for these clothes any longer, then we could donate them for the other people to be used by. The saying of one man's trash is another man's treasure. What we consider worthless may be considered very valuable by someone else. We can never actually realize based on our own perceptions. Once again, thank you very much, Mbak Dila Haju. Thank you very much, Mas Yun, for attending this webinar. I'm truly sorry if there are any shortcomings or any wrong words that I have expressed before. With this, I have concluded the main agenda of today's webinars, and I would give back the floor to Ka Esther as the Master of Ceremony. Thank you very much, everyone. Good afternoon.
All right. Thank you very much for the speakers and Yazid, the moderator for today's session. That was a very interesting and insightful session. Now, for the next agenda, we will be handing our token of gratitude towards all speakers and moderator. For Dr. Wahyuyun Santoso, SHM LLM, will be given by Kak Prasetyo Pramudiono as the Director of ALSA LCUGM.
Punya aja.
Okay. We will take a picture in 1, 2, 3. Get a smile. All right. Thank you so much, Mas Yuyun and Kak Dion. Next one, for Kak Dila Haju, will be given by Fazara Atifa as the Manager of English Development Division. Okay.
Hello, I'm audible.
Yes, Farah.
Okay, maybe for Mbak Dila, I want to thank you for the very insightful presentation that you have just shared with us today. It was very informative, and it was very fresh to see your perspective in regards to this topic. And yes, so once again, we would just like to say thank you very much for your attendance today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we will take a picture in 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you so much, Mbak Dila Haju. And last but not least, for Tubagus Yazid, our moderator for this event. I, as not only the MC, but also the person in charge of this event, will be giving you our token of gratitude.
Thank you very much, Kak Esther, for the certificate.
Thank you so much, Yazid, for the participation in this webinar. I'm as the Local Board of English Development Division. I want to say thank you to you, for handling this webinar so insightful. Okay, we will get a picture in 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you, Azid. And now we will commence to our last agenda, which is the photo session. That all participants, please turn on your camera for the documentation.
I will wait. Okay, I will now take the picture. Wait.
To all participants, please kindly turn on your camera so we can take pictures.
To all the participants, please kindly turn on your camera. That way I can take the picture. I will wait in a minute so that we'll be able to take the picture. Okay. For the other participants. Okay, maybe I will just take the picture now. Okay. I'll take the picture in 3, 2, 1. Smile. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mas Yun, Mbak Dila, once again. Sorry, perhaps there was a technical issue as well because there was supposed to be a presentation of the certificates. Once again, I'm truly sorry for the problem. Once again, thank you so much for the material presentations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And now we have arrived at the end of the webinar series 3 with the theme of fast fashion, how simplicity creates calamity. From the depths of my heart, I do apologize if there were mistakes. And thank you very much for your kind attention and see you on the next event. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Santi Santi
Salam.
Santi Om. Namo Buddhaya. Alsa, always be one. Thank you, Mas Yun, Mbak Dila, and
Okay,
everyone.
thank you. Sehat-sehat semuanya.
Thank you.
Pamit.
Thank you, Mbak Dila and Mas Yun.
Thank you, Mbak Dila.
Terima kasih Mas Yun.